Nightmares in Flux. A Datura report by JMZ on erowid.org in 2004. First of all, I would like to let you all know that this is not a party drug. This is a very powerful, very poisonous plant. It is nothing like acid, and yes, it can kill you in a variety of ways. I had almost total amnesia after this experience. This report is compiled of things I have remembered over the past 3 years. Kessler and I have both been diagnosed as schizophrenic in the past year. Is it coincidence? Or did the Datura have something to do with it? One night in early October of 2001, I was house-sitting at my friend Cassie's house in downtown Savannah. My friend Kessler was there house-sitting too. We were just sitting around, smoking and drinking a little bit. Cassie and her roommates were at a rave in South Carolina. Eventually, we fell asleep. The crew arrived home early the next morning. We were sitting around, passing the bong around, talking and stuff. Cassie gave Kessler and I a small bag full of black seeds in a crimson liquid. I had no idea what they were, neither did Kessler. Cassie explained to us that it was Jimson weed. I still had no idea. Neither of us had ever heard of it. I was a stupid kid, so I didn't even research it. Cassie told me that it was enough to make about 5 people trip nuts. Now, Kessler and I were psychonauts, so we thought her definition of tripping nuts was probably a bit different than ours. So we just divided the seeds in half and ate them. I'd say we each had about 70 fat, juicy seeds, and we each drank the liquid, whatever that was. I had done acid, ecstasy, AMT, a lot of other stuff before this point, but nothing could prepare me for the world I was about to enter. I guess this would be a good place to explain something. The hallucinations from Datura stramonium are very strong. They are very bizarre, but seem natural. What I mean is, everything is very, very odd, but seems real. More real than reality, if that makes any sense to you. Kessler and I waited for about an hour or two, and we still weren't feeling it. We went up to my house and chilled out there for a while. We were starting to get very tired. We decided to go back to Cassie's house so we could stay up. We got there, and we were feeling very drunk by this time. Ultra sloshed. Drunker than I have ever been, and I've been pretty drunk. I fell asleep on Cassie's couch. When I awoke, I was feeling even more drunk. I couldn't even stand up. My girlfriend at the time, Beth, drove me home. I don't remember, but she said that on the way home, I kept on taking my lighter out of the dash and trying to hit it like it was a pipe. When I arrived home, that's when it hit me really hard. I went into my bedroom and got online to check my email. Suddenly, I saw a miniature version of myself walk out of my monitor. He sat down on my computer desk and started talking to me. We had a very deep conversation about life, love, and many other things. Then, he told me that he needed to go get some water. I went to the bathroom and filled a cup up with water and a bottle cap for my little friend. When I looked in the mirror, it wasn't me that I saw. It was a bloody mess. My face was mutilated beyond recognition. I started washing my face, but the more I washed, the bloodier it seemed to get. After about an hour, the blood just disappeared and I was able to recognise myself again. I went back to the room and my little friend was gone. I heard a knock at the front door as soon as I got back to my room. I went to see who it was, and when I opened the door, I was in for a surprise. I think that everyone I had ever known was there, even people I had forgotten all about. This makes me think Datura has the power to unlock forgotten memories. I let the hundreds of people in, and we all went to my room, which is strange because I had a very small room, but everyone was there. I was talking to and catching up with everyone. People kept disappearing and reappearing in random places in my room. People also kept dying, decaying, and eventually disappearing. I was worried, but soon forgot all about it. There was also this guy with a Chick-fil-A cup as a head. He would keep dying, decaying, and coming back to life. I tried to kick everyone out, but I couldn't seem to get the Chick-fil-A guy to leave. Every time I tried to pick up the bones, they would turn to sand. He would then be reborn from the sand. I was getting really pissed off and quite freaked out. My friend Superman appeared from somewhere and helped me out. He tried to pick up the bones and they turned to sand, so he pulled out a broom from somewhere and swept the guy out the front door. Superman came back to my room, dragging a large cross. He talked to me as he proceeded to crucify himself. When he was completely hung up on the cross, he started to become very disfigured. He then exploded into ashes. I was horrified. What had happened to my friend? I gathered the ashes up in a dustpan and took them to the kitchen sink. I dumped the ashes into the sink and ran water on them. A new Superman grew up right out of my sink. He thanked me for bringing him to life and hazily left. I decided to go for a walk. I saw my car in the parking lot and it was wrecked very badly. I was upset. I went over and tried to open the door, but the whole car melted at my touch. Then I leaned up against a tree and the tree melted. I figured out that I had the power to melt things just by touching them. Then I had the idea to touch myself. I did, and nothing happened. I got very lost, and it took me hours to realise that I was just in the parking lot in front of my apartment. I wanted to go back inside, but I couldn't. I had locked the door and already had melted my keys by accident. The power eventually went away, so I used my ID to try and break into my house. I couldn't do it. I walked away and found my keys back in their solid state. I used my keys and let myself in. I soon noticed that my ID was missing. I'll explain at the end. I went to take a shower, and when I got my clothes off, I noticed I had no sexual organs at all. I was freaked out, but I figured there was nothing I could do about this. I got in the shower and started to wash. When I got out of the shower and went back to my room, there was a 7-foot-tall totem pole staring at me. The totem pole was my CD tower. We had a conversation. Then the strangest thing happened. Time started to slow down, slower and slower, until it eventually stopped. Everything around me was suspended in time. My cat was frozen. My totem pole, who was talking to me just a minute ago, was now frozen in time with his mouth open in mid-sentence. This was very strange. Eventually, time came back. Remember, it all seemed very natural at the time. Beth had come over to check on me. We were sitting there talking for hours, and as we talked, I slowly began to come down. The telephone rang, and I went to pick it up. It was Beth. How was this possible? I looked over at the Beth on my bed, and she began to fade into nothing, waving at me as she went. This was the last major hallucination that I had on the Datura. About my ID that came up missing, I was so messed on the Datura that I was trying to break into the wrong house. The next day, I got a knock at the door. It was the lady that lived in apartment 703. She told me that she had found my ID in her door. I wasn't even going to try and explain. The after effects of this stuff are wicked. I couldn't see anything clearly for about a week. I also felt strange for almost a month. It was like a month-long acid trip. I was having minor hallucinations for weeks. Thanks for listening to this trip report. The link to the original report will be in the description, and there'll also be a link to the new Discord server I've made for the channel if you'd like to join and talk to similar people. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.